Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Itai. Thank you for inviting me to this event. Thank you all for staying. I know the Democratic debates are starting shortly, and I also heard that Daniel Libeskind was speaking in another room, so I'm really thrilled that you're all sitting here in front of us, in front of me. I'm Cynthia Nikitin. I'm with Project for Public Spaces, based here in New York. And we've been around since 1975, and we believe that great public spaces strengthen communities. And we work with people to create the public spaces that make them more resilient, more sustainable, create the heart of the community. We think about public spaces as parks, waterfronts, plazas, city halls, universities, main streets, plazas, just about any libraries, anywhere except pretty much your home and your office. And if we build great public spaces, we build great cities. So that's what we've been doing all over the world. Okay, so what are the benefits of place? You know, why build great places? Well, when you have communities that are that have a great sense of place, that really have successful functioning a public realm, you have more walking. Okay, great. So you're reducing car trips and congestion and improving air quality. You have safer environments. You have healthier communities. You have people that are actually able to have a healthier lifestyle, get out and about. And these are just things that basically shape the physical environment shapes our behavior as human beings. So a lot of our work has been funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who understood that our environments basically determine, in some ways, our health outcomes. And they say sometimes that your zip code is a bigger indicator of your longevity, than your cholesterol levels or than any other health indicator. So this really does have tremendous impact and repercussions for us. So placemaking is also a philosophy with guiding principles. So we believe the community is the expert. When we go to work in our 3,500 communities, we're there for a few days or even a year. We don't know as much as the people who live there do. We don't know where the problems are. We don't know what the assets are. These folks have a tremendous amount of information. You all know a lot about your communities, but our design processes, our planning processes are not set up to mine that intelligence. We believe in partnerships. You cannot do it alone. Management, you're never finished. And you're not just creating a design. Design is part of creating a great place, but it's not the only answer. This is our process, and we do this with communities experiencing any number of challenges or opportunities, rural communities, communities in the global south, communities around the United States, is we start by looking at the space and the stakeholders. Who cares about this place? Who lives here? Who is the community as they self-define themselves? We evaluate the space and the place with those community members to find out actually what's working, what's not working. We come up with a collective vision. We do experiments before we make long-term commitments, and we're always evaluating. So in communities that have experienced a disaster, climatic upheaval, we still go in and look at what is that community, what is that space. We also start with the most beloved public spaces in that community. We were working with the Southern Library Network after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and the Gates Foundation gave 7 Southern libraries money for computers. That was their big, and I think they got trailers. They got their libraries back into trailers. The first responders were going to the museum because the museums had Wi-Fi. People went to the library. They went to the library because it was a normal thing to do, to take out a book. These librarians were helping people fill out their FEMA applications. They were helping them get mental health information. They were connecting them with social services. So those libraries were they're like the bedrock of those communities. In other communities, it's a park, it's a square, but it's what everybody they have no boiler, and the roof is gone from their house. But can they spend 3 hours with us envisioning building back better and working together to build back the places that they feel define their sense of who they are and their history? Okay. So in terms of the and I am not an academic, and I don't work for a city agency. I've been a practitioner with PPS for over 25 years, so I just do projects. So we don't just do planning, we implement. You've got the livability issue, the placemaking, and then the sustainability in the long term. All right, this is my tale of two cities. Who remembers Hurricane Agnes? Okay, 1972. The Susquehanna River flooded. The top these are about Elmira and Corning, New York. So the top is Corning, New York. And what happened after Hurricane Agnes in 1972, these are two towns near the Finger Lakes, okay? They're almost the same size. They have similar building stock. They both have museums. They both have a college. They both have performing arts centers. And as I said, they're about a half an hour drive from one another. They made fundamentally different decisions in responding to the aftermath of Hurricane Agnes in 1972. So Elmira on the left said, that will never happen again. We will never be flooded again. And they took their Army Corps of Engineer money and they built a flood wall. That's the wall. So no matter where you are in Elmira, New York, you cannot see the Susquehanna River. The Susquehanna River is quite beautiful. In Corning, New York, they asked a very important question, which a lot of communities don't ask. They asked the Army Corps of Engineer, do we have to build a wall? Do we have to build a berm? Do we have to put up fences? Can we just rebuild our main street? And the Army Corps said, sure, if that's what you want to do, but you could get flooded again. And they go, well, you'll give us more money again, and we'll rebuild our main street again. And they made that decision to rebuild their main street. So this is the two tales of two cities. This is from about 5 years ago. And so this is a performing arts center in Elmira on your left. You cannot tell it is a performing arts center. It looks like a storage facility. And that is a 4-lane state highway that runs right past the center. So what Elmira did, it's just started to snowball. So they built the wall. They made all these other decisions then that basically reduced their walkability, reduced their livability. They said, we've got to get people here. We're going to build more roads. We're going to build roads. Corning says, no, we're just going to put really cute shops on our main street, and we're going to have like the radio station there, and we're going to have, we're just going to do a main street thing. The pedestrian environment in Elmira on the left, all about cars, all about getting people in there, driving. If they come in a car, then it's going to work for us. Just this whole other mentality, and Corning is, no, we want people walking on the street. Elmira said, our problem is we don't have enough parking. And as my friend Andy Wiley-Schwartz, who was a deputy director for the city, commissioner for the city of New York under the previous administration, wisely said, no one goes somewhere because there's great parking. Let's go to Elmira. There's absolutely nothing to do but wow. We can find as many parking spaces as we want. No, you go to places where there is no parking, you figure out a place to leave your car, and you'll walk 4 blocks because it's such a great place. But even in the way they design their parking, so Elmira on the left, as Donald Shoup will tell you, the top 2 floors are completely empty. The Corning garage is kind of like built in to look like the architecture of the city. This is a parking map in Elmira. Every time a new business moved into a building, they would tear down the building next door to put in more parking. So because they had, I believe, cut themselves off from this amazing natural resource, they just turned a corner and went in a direction. They are still talking about Hurricane Agnes. In Corning, Agnes is the woman who runs that amazing bakery, down the street on the corner. So these decisions, as not innocuous, but it's sort of like after a relative dies, you're in crisis, and it's like, okay, we've got the house, what do you want to do? Oh, no, sell it, buy it, I don't know. It's the same thing. Communities are traumatized, and then they're dealing with FEMA, and they're dealing with Army Corps of Engineer, and they don't really have anyone to help them take a step back and look through the long-term implications of the decisions that they make. So there are many different kinds of placemaking opportunities, and as I was talking about rebuilding back from the places that you love, a community could start with its transit facilities, it could start with its parks, it could start with its institutions like libraries and religious institutions and churches. These are the places that we pay for with our tax dollars. So when you're looking at recovery and building back, there's many different places where you could start with. So here's an example, and this kind of speaks a little bit to what Professor Davis was talking about, looking at networking like physical sites into zones of resilience. So Cedar Rapids, 2008, big flood, Cedar Rapids. So you see there's the little arrow there. They lost their market. They lost their city market, their public market, which was a place for fresh food and socializing, and we all know how wonderful markets are. So the mission of the market is economic development, okay, small business development, entrepreneurial activity, quality of life, creating new jobs, and healthy living, providing people access to healthy food. This is before, and it was not a great building. It was a building, it was okay, this is the before. And then this is post-flood, so this is sort of the neighborhood next to the market. When the market flooded, they got money from the city and FEMA. They got money from the state of Iowa, the county, foundations, corporate gifts, individual donations, and partnerships. And a lot of the time with the funding, it's all cobbled together from small pots of money. This is the rebuilt Nubo City Market. So they didn't just rebuild the market. Here they are with their, they have permanent tenants, they have flexible space, temporary spaces. They bring in people that want to just sort of start out a market business. They have special events, outdoor events. They kind of took their market and turned it inside out. They actually built back better than where they were before the flooding happened. But what also happened is the neighborhood next to the market underwent a revival because the market became such an anchor and such a symbol of recovery and rebirth. Everyone wanted to go there to show their support. And people were like, that's a really cool neighborhood next door. So some of the people started opening businesses and moving in and creating this sort of new bohemia, arts, cultural, entrepreneurial district next to, just a couple of blocks away. And the district actually, flourished, and there's now art galleries where there never were before, small businesses, incubators in revitalized, restored, renovated buildings. And, even Bill Clinton came by and said, what a great place. So it's a story how you can sort of think beyond, we just got to get the building back up and running, to how does it sort of reach out like an octopus. I'm not going to show you the sad pictures of Hurricane Sandy and my beloved Hoboken, where I live, flooded, because you kind of, maybe they're in your head. So Hoboken is very interesting. Here's our mayor, because for the last, 5 years, Hoboken is making a conscious and deliberate effort to tie its resilience, recovery, planning, and mitigation to its Vision Zero pedestrian safety initiatives, which are tied to water main replacement, with the ultimate goal of building the social fabric of the city and the social cohesion of our neighborhoods. So we got a ton of money from FEMA. We got a lot of money to rebuild, redesign, restore, blah, blah. We got a lot of money. Yes, we built new pumping stations, but I will show you that the changes that we've made that are part of that recovery, risk mitigation, disaster recovery and mitigation, are actually making our streets safer, reducing pedestrian fatalities, managing stormwater, and now we're tearing up water mains, which are 1 million years old, and combined sewage and water. Of course they are. And when they go back, they're going to go back with curb extensions, bike lanes, storm water retention structures, green infrastructure, high visibility crosswalks, and ADA compliant ramps. So City Hall is our demonstration garden. So here's our mayor. So he's waving, hi, he used to be Mike's city councilor. Okay, City Hall in Hoboken has become a installation of sustainable practices. This is a rain garden. What is a rain garden? This is what it tells you. They built a rain garden in the back. We have 2 of these giant Texas cisterns that take all the water that runs off the roof and puts it into cisterns, which then waters the landscaping. This little deck is an example of permeable paving. What do we mean by permeable surfaces? Well, we put down the permeable paving. Now you can see what that is. And we also put out tables and chairs, and you can sit there and have your lunch. They built this knee wall, which was never here before, which is perfect sitting height, a perfect place for the native plantings. This all surrounds the City Hall and creates opportunities for gathering, for socializing, and social interaction. So this was like all with this great FEMA money, I think, and other grants, were these bioswales, these planted swales at the intersection. Native planting, good for pollination, absorbs water. I was so excited because it basically rationalized the streets, which were like 1.5 lanes wide. You were always cutting people off. You were always double parking. When you were crossing the street, you never knew where you stood. All of these curb extensions, they're happening all over the city. Basically, control traffic, keep it going at a safe speed. Pedestrians can cross, bicycles can navigate. All of this fabulous brick, I believe, was paid for by FEMA. I might be making a little bit of this up, but I never let the facts get in the way of a good story. This was like one of my happy moments. So this is Newark Street, and everyone parades down Newark Street to go to the PATH train, and it was all asphalt. Well, they not only dug up the asphalt to reveal this beautiful Belgian block, they dug up the Belgian block and relaid it so it was more stable, and it put in a new base coat. So we not only got rid of the asphalt, we got reinstalled Belgian block, and where people used to sort of angle park in front of the CVS, we got a plaza. So now you've got 1 lane of traffic, you've got parking on one side, and you've got this brand new pedestrian space. The Belgian block does 2 things. If you go over it too fast, your car rumbles, so you have to go slowly, like 20 miles an hour. And it also gave us more public space. So it's like these things that check multiple boxes. We continue to go on. Washington is our main drag to put in bike lanes. We basically made efforts to discourage people from driving. We live our lives between the Holland Tunnel and the Lincoln Tunnel, and everyone is coming through Hoboken to get to one of the others, and we are just here. So we want to make it really uncomfortable for people to cut through. We also want to promote much more non-motorized transportation. We have sort of a young population. They don't necessarily want to have cars, and as you know, Hoboken is like ridiculously difficult to park in, except I and my neighbors have never had to spend the night in our car looking for a spot. Anyway, we made a choice, designing for people and places, not for cars and traffic. So this is our little Pride intersection, and we're doing these all over town. We've got the Lime scooters going in, we've got bike share, we've got shuttles, we've got look at all these bicycles. I mean, it's chaos. I mean, it's not really it's a mobility hub. It's got a lot to be desired. But in terms of the sheer numbers of people that are taking public transit, I think we have a population of about 50,000. It's just huge. And that, when you're not stuck in your car, you've got a lot more ways of getting around. Obviously, if it's 4 feet of water, you're not going anywhere. But when the water recedes, you don't necessarily have to fix your car if it floated away. You can navigate around roads that are closed, etc. Key takeaways. Strengthen community and social networks. Communities that have strong social networks, as we know, are more resilient, and they bounce back better, and they know who needs help, etc. But can we strengthen them before something terrible happens? Can we involve and inform the community about what we're doing? Hoboken puts out all these flyers every month about new things that are happening and how much exciting. They're opening the new water pumping station. Wahoo! We know that they're doing these things with our money and FEMA money. Incorporate mental health into existing disaster preparedness efforts. Warning systems, vulnerable populations, creating a sense of safety, calm, and hope. is really important, fostering optimism, shoring up infrastructure, and being sensitive to the needs of the displaced people. I could go on, but I'm not going to. So, the social dimension is more important than ever. Public spaces can be anchors for community resilience. We know that they are anchor spaces for community mourning and for celebration. It's the same thing after a disaster. And as I said, with the community is the expert. Community participation is key. When we work with communities about safety issues, we co-create conditions to improve the safety of a neighborhood with the people that live there. Whatever it is that's going to make them feel safer, whatever parameters or suggestions or strategies that they feel comfortable with, that's what we go for. So this is how you can get in touch with us. Thank you for your time.